We have a special guest today who came to Egypt, a close friend of mine, an international lawyer, a founder, a lecturer, a mother, a great friend as well, a real person. Sarah Malik, a barrister in the UK for more than 10 years, moved to the UAE, worked with international law firm, then went ahead and did her own practice and started from there. And if you see and follow Sarah Malik on social media, you see that the sky is the limit. She does everything from moderating panels, talking on panels, writing legal article, advising on sport law, fashion law, contracts, arbitration, litigation. She is full of talents. She's a very real and lovely person as well. I'm very excited to talk with her today. I know Sarah personally and professionally, so very excited, and I hope you enjoyed the session with Sarah today. Sarah Malik, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good to see you.
And you?
Welcome to Egypt.
Thank you.
How was your flight here?
Flight was very good. Egypt's been really lovely. Everyone's very hospitable. Food is great. I'll definitely be back soon.
It's not your first time in Egypt?
No. I came in 2006 and 2008, but I haven't ever been here for work before.
We're very excited to have you.
Thank you.
It's my first time doing this podcast, by the way. I've done some moderation to some panels. I've sat on panels, but it's my first time to sit on a podcast, so I'm pretty excited.
Okay.
You say you never forget your first one, so let's see. Super excited. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I think all the audience today are very excited to know that we're talking to you. You're obviously a big name, big brand. When I look at what you've done throughout your career, you were a barrister for quite some time in the UK, moved to the UAE, joined the international law firm, and now you have your own setup, your own firm. Tell us the journey.
So I decided I'd be a lawyer when I was very, very little. I was one of those 7-year-old kids who knew she wanted to be a lawyer. One of my uncles is a lawyer. Well, many of my family are, but him in particular was a huge influence. And I used to follow him around. At the age of 7, I wanted to become a lawyer. Quickly in law school, I realised I wanted to be an advocate and not a solicitor, which is why I went to the bar. And I did 15 years in a kind of top 20 chambers in London before I came out to the UAE, where I was then employed for the first time. Actually, I'd had a stint of employment in a law firm in the UK for about 9 months. And I then set up SOL after 3.5 years in international practice because I saw a gap in the market where I could kind of bring what we do at the bar in London into a law firm in the UAE and provide a very bespoke way of doing things where I take responsibility from start to finish for a matter that comes in through the door with a junior, rather than a huge kind of big law firm where there's many, many people, lots of associates, senior associates. Clients come to me because it's me who takes responsibility. And I saw that clients wanted that in the market, and hence SOL was set up. That, in a nutshell, is the history.
Yeah, I'm sure there's much more to that, but I'll keep people excited to know more from you as we go. So it's interesting because you've done so many things, and you're currently doing a lot of things, right? And you have your own brand, I'd like to say, right? By the way, Sarah and I also are very close friends, so it's good to see the personal side, the professional side. So when I look at you now, as a friend, as a peer, as a colleague, you have your own brand, which is unique in a sense because traditionally law firms tend to have, when you have a brand as a lawyer, you tend to be specialized in a certain area of law, right? And when I look at you, I think you managed to break that rule. You have your own brand, which is very nice to watch and see. I think it's quite unique and disruptive. Tell us more about that. How did you see traditionally? And you're different. You're definitely, you've done something different and unique in the market. Tell us about the brand story behind it, and how did you feel as you go doing something different in the market?
So I understand what you say, that lawyers are usually boxed into specialities. You are a corporate lawyer, or you are a litigator, or you are an arbitrator, or you are an employment lawyer. And I'm not of that mindset. I do different areas of law, and I hope to think I do them very well because I have a genuine interest and passion in them. So I started off as a litigator, as a barrister in the UK. And when I came to UAE, I quickly found that in order to advocate, which is my kind of primary interest, I needed to do arbitration because there wasn't enough common law advocacy in the UAE. So I switched to arbitration just 10 years ago. And I decided, well, I know I want to advocate. How am I going to do that? I'm going to do it by arbitration. And, you know, I did the CIAB course. I attended what I needed to attend, the courses, the lectures, made the contacts. And today I teach and advise, for example, the Dubai International Arbitration Centre. So I think law is a skill set that you can transfer. A lot of areas of law to do with contracts. Fashion law is another area I've recently had an interest in and got involved in the last couple of years. But a lot of it is to do with IP or contracts. You know, franchising, distribution, agency, it's not rocket science. And I think we put labels on law, or traditionally the model is to put labels and you can only be seen to specialise in certain areas. Well, I don't. I specialise in arbitration, I do litigation, I do tech across the world, I do fashion, I do entertainment, and I do sports. And I do it all, and I do it well, I think. So when you're told, I think, as a junior that you must only do one for credibility, I'm going to disagree. I think that if you have a real passion to do something and you keep on top of, there's a responsibility for you to make sure you know what you're doing, you can do more than one thing and you can specialise in more than one area. Because first and foremost, you're a lawyer. And that skill set, as I said, is transferable across various disciplines. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it seems that you enjoy what you do and you listen to what you like to do despite what other people might been telling you. I definitely resonate with what you said there, because traditionally as well I've been advised to pick one line and stay in this lane. And I struggled with that naturally, but when I was junior, started my career, you still have to play within certain rules,
yeah.
Right? And this is how you define success. And I think you and I have been fortunate to somehow see something different and do what we want and like. And I think you're doing it very well. And I agree with you, just to, not a biased opinion here, but I worked with you in some cases and I've seen the lawyer side. So everyone obviously see the what's on social media and the events and the posts and this and that. And people might be wondering, what is she actually doing the work?
It's funny because I think someone said to me, someone who I value a lot, said, I think certain people might not be able to follow what you do because they can't comprehend how you do it, because they may well compartmentalize themselves into one area or just enjoy the one area and feel that they can't take on others. And I disagree. I can understand that, and I can understand why it's a tried and tested model that may work for client credibility, a person's own comfort zone. But for me, I'm forever challenging myself, coming out of my comfort zone. And that's how I think one knows how far you can go, is when you're outside. Comfort kills success. Mm. If you're comfortably doing an area of law you know inside out very well and you do that for the rest of your life, you don't know what else you're capable of. And I've always been known as someone who challenges the norm, thinks outside the box, you know, disruptive in my views, but within the conventions of law. I'd never break rules or otherwise, but of course you can practice more than one area of law and practice it very well. Of course you can.
I agree with you. But maybe the other side of the argument you would say, is there a limitation to this expansion? So doing one thing, so I can see the value from a client perspective, going to a specialist. You know the matter in and out. The client comes in with a set of issues. The issues are set on the table from day one. I know how to ask, what to do, and then write on it. And clients do love that. But other clients want to think of you as the lawyer that you go to. I have a problem, I'll call Sarah Malik. And then the other important part to that is that you need to know, okay, when do I say I don't know? No, I can't take it. So coming to your side of the world, is there any limitation to this?
Of course there's limitations. I won't take on a single matter that I'm not comfortable in doing. That's one of the first integral parts of being a barrister. I take on what I know I can do. But if a client comes through my door, it's an existing client, and I feel I'm not competent to do that, I'll refer it on to someone I know or I can vouch for to say, well, I can't, but let me get you the best person for it. So I'm not going to pretend to do areas of law I don't do, because that goes against every ethical standard I stand for. if you think of a general counsel, they are forever fighting fires and dealing with various different legal disciplines, and they have teams they deal with and they outsource. And to some degree in a law firm, if you can't do that particular area or it's not something that you specialize in or do, you then do send it on elsewhere. So there's a solution. So of course there's limitations. There's no lawyer who can do every single aspect of every single law in every jurisdiction. That's impossible. But it doesn't detract from the fact that you can do more than one. There's natural limitations. But you have to be able to recognise those as a professional as well. You have an overriding duty to recognise those.
So you don't think Harvey Specter is a real character, doing a corporate M&A one day, the next day doing a criminal
No, that
case?
would be ridiculous. I mean, if you saw me on LinkedIn and now she's in the criminal courts and now she's doing a JV, and you'd be like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
But the same way, that's exactly what a general counsel would deal with, but they'd outsource it to the right people. So I think as a lawyer, you can do a certain number of areas, and then areas you don't do, you can always find someone to do it. You can partner with people to do it. You can outsource it, but you certainly don't take responsibility yourself to do that. I think that's important for everyone to know.
And clients do respect that. So I fully agree with you, and that's how exactly I see it as well. I'm actually quite open about it when I social events and conferences, and some of my clients come and they just see me and I walk with them and I see my competitors and I happily introduce them, not giving them out, but just a social context. Everyone knows everyone, and I'm confident enough to know that I know where my value is. I know where to say I don't know. And I think this is important. And what I've seen, like, some lawyers struggle to say I don't know. Some people do say, no, these are the areas that I can advise on. Other areas I have to refer to, as you mentioned. And we did refer to each other in the past. And I've seen some lawyers doing it better than others in terms of understanding this abundance. And there's room for everyone. And you have to come to a point and say, no, I don't know. You better speak to this person or that person.
Absolutely. And look, traditionally, law firms want to keep as much as they can for themselves. And I understand that. There's overheads, there's, wages to pay. They want to be the lawyers who are doing the work. For me, and I've always been like this from the start of my career, collaboration is more important. There's enough to go around if you have an abundance mindset. There's a bigger pie and everybody gets the slice. And me referring work to you or you referring to me, nobody gets poorer by giving. All you're doing is you're surrounding yourself with the right network who open doors for each other and who help each other. We do the same areas of law. One of the areas I do is employment. You do that as well, right? Something comes your way or something I'm not able to do and is referred to you, or something that's equally we're pitching for, you get it. It's never going to, I'm not going to get upset by it. I'm going to be proud of the fact that you've got it. And unfortunately, many people don't think like that, and they see each other. There's always competition. Of course, there's always healthy competition. But if you're secure in yourself, your only competition is you. My competition every day is me. Am I better today or in 6 months than I was yesterday? I don't benchmark myself against anyone, an international, a local, a senior lawyer or a junior lawyer. And I say that to my team. I say, if you want to come to me and say to me you need a salary rise or you want to do different work, don't compare yourself to someone else in the team. You tell me why you're worth doing that or why I should consider you to do that, because you know your value. Now, when you're comparing yourself to someone else or you're competitive or insecure, that's when problems start. If you know who you are and what you bring to the table, you can sell yourself to me and say, well, I'm worth X, Y, and Z because, look, I've done this, this, and this. And I'm like, you're sold. And when you're confident in yourself, you're happy if work goes around. It's not taking anything away from me if somebody else gets something. That's how I see it. And it's not a traditional mentality, but it's mine.
I'm glad you mentioned your team, and we'll come to that in a minute, but I want to stay in the brand a little bit. So with all of that in mind, when we say Sarah's brand...
It's not Sarah's brand, but
well,
okay.
Whether we like it or not, every one of us has a brand from day one. Your brand is when people say your name, what do they think of you? So when I say Sarah, how would you like for people to think of you, and what do you think the actual market look at you and think, this is my brand?
People know, it's different disciplines have different kind of backgrounds. So with litigation, and whether you look at whether it's cases in London or otherwise, people come because of a name. You develop a name even as an individual. Maybe in corporate you develop as a team or under a banner of a law firm because those transactions require many more lawyers. But SOL, number one, SOL was the brand. And it's important because I think when you're talking about branding, you have to have a vision, a purpose, know your audience, know what message you want to send across, be consistent, know what your slogan is. And for me, from the day one, it was, I want to do something real and I want to do something that's kind of grounded. So my brand, Sarah or Malina, my children.
Beautiful.
So it was real from the outset that's where I start off. I treat each case personally and real. And my brand, if you like, when people kind of come to SOL, it's branded in every client matters. And the value is we will do what we can for you, and if we can't, we won't. So I think the message you send to the market is hugely important in branding, and you have to be consistent. And the marketing is massively important. And you don't have to have huge budgets to market. You just have to have the same message said over and over again and put out there. So when people think of Sarah or SOL, I don't know what they think. Maybe they think she's crazy and she lives in an airplane. I've had comments recently, you should buy your own jet, you're forever all over the world. But I'd hope people would...
One day, Sarah.
Maybe, we'll see, inshallah. I hope people would think that we get a bespoke service in a boutique setup where we know that she will tell us as it is. And she's not afraid to say that. So if I think there's a rubbish case or it's not a very meritorious case or we have problems, I'm going to tell you. You might not want to hear it, but I'm going to tell you. And that's what I hope people would know. And if you look at the testimonials, people say she just says it as it is and cuts straight to the issue and doesn't kind of, all the fluff doesn't matter. And I like that kind of direct approach.
That's beautiful. And I also resonate with that a lot. When I was working with Stevenson Howard, they just had this training program for us. And one of the trainers came and spoke about brand. And he said, what's your brand? I said, everyone has a brand. I said, yeah, actually, that's true. And I kept thinking about it a lot. And I remember one of my mentors there, interesting guy, a former litigator, arbitration, then did M&A corporate, Sean Engel, an Aussie gentleman, a great gentleman to work with. And he told me, think of yourself as a problem solver. When your clients have a problem, they come to you and they trust you. But what does that mean? It means that they know that I can say I don't know, I'll refer you to this or that, and then I can think with you about it. And I think this is a dialogue. We've seen it in the IBA, clients talking with lawyers, lawyers talking with clients, because we're service providers, and understanding this, you're actually a service provider. And if you have this reality check, as you mentioned, where you want to be real, I love this word. I think it's important for you to think of yourself as a lawyer like that. And I like to say of myself as a problem solver. And when they respect you and they like you and they trust you, they say, hey, you have something in Saudi, can you help us? You have something in Bahrain, can you help us? And I'll be honest and say, I don't have the full resources, but I'll sort it out and I'll come back to you with a solution, a proposal. Then we talk about it. And it's quite often actually work out quite well. So... yeah.
It's about realism, and I think everybody resonates with that. Yeah. And often lawyers are, unfortunately, from the outset, put into a box, or there's a pressure on a lawyer to have to be a certain way. And I don't subscribe to that school of thought, and I never have from day one. And I will always kind of say how I feel, even if it's to a client or to my opposition or to the judge. And I'll stand alone and say how I feel or what I think is right, and I'm not afraid to do so. But a lot of lawyers, and especially junior lawyers, and I can understand the pressure on them, are unable to voice that opinion. Either they're not in a safe environment to do so, they're scared for job security, and they don't want to rock the boat. And I think that's something that really does need to be addressed in our profession, and it's unfortunate. And people walk away from the profession for those reasons, or there's burnout or etc., because it's a profession that comes with a lot of prestige and a lot of pressure as well, and to manage that can become difficult.
Yeah,
sometimes.
And again, I'm glad you mentioned SOL and what it means to you and the name of your children, and it's part of being real as well, I guess. I mean, it's such an amazing thing to see someone like you talking about it and be open about it. I think people need to know that lawyers are human. But you're right, we have this pressure on us. As you might know, I'm a big advocate on mental health and well-being in the workplace. And quite often people get the wrong idea and said, hey, where's mental health? Yeah, mental health is that when you get the work done. So what we do as lawyers, we take responsibilities. It's a very... it's an important thing to do, that we take care of other people's problem, and someone needs to get it done. If you get a call 2 a.m. and client is panicking and there's something happening in the airport in the UK or in Dubai, they got stopped, or there's an arrest order on the ship, or someone has arrested something, you want to call the lawyer, and the lawyer needs to be ready to provide them with the comfort and the assistance and the guidance. And this is something comes with the pressure, and it's not easy to manage. I'll talk about the family side, but before that, if I can stay still in the business side. So you talked about your team quite a bit. So I'm keen to understand from you, what are the challenges when you had your own practice? What's different between managing a firm and becoming a leader in a certain area?
Management and leadership are two totally different things. Management is process-driven, and it's about the how, and you have resources and you get things done. And leadership is about vision, and it's about executing strategy, and it's about seeing the future, and it's about leading by example. So management is a role that's undertaken, which is different to leadership.
Yeah.
A good leader will listen to what people have got to say, allow different views on the table, be inclusive and diverse, and adapt to change. The world is a very different place, even since the pandemic, than it was. I've seen a quarter of a decade of law this year, and I've seen huge changes in the way tech has come in, processes have come in. And to some degree, teams and younger teams are more comfortable and able to deal with that kind of change than the old school lawyers. The old school lawyers have grown up a certain way, doing hours and hours in the office and worked their way from the bottom to the top, and that's what they know. COVID came in and changed the whole narrative and said, well, actually, we can work from home, people can still be effective, you can manage or lead people through tech, through technology, through different ways. And I think in order to deal with a team, you're never going to have it perfect. There's going to be issues that arise. It's how they're dealt with. And you have to have an environment where your team is able to speak without fear. You provide a respectable environment for them to raise issues, voices, bring ideas to the table. But equally, you need to train the team to ensure that you're making the best of those lawyers. And sometimes that's what I call tough love. And they might not like what you're saying or doing, but you're doing it because you see the potential in them. And you know, like you would with your own child, to say, if I don't correct you now, it's going to stay in you going forward. And I explain that to the team, saying, sometimes I do feel like, I'm the mother, and that's how they refer to me. And I will call you out on certain things, but through love, through getting you from A to B where I want to see you, absolutely killing it. And you might not like the fact that you're being told to do something over and over again, or that's wrong, or redo this. But there's method behind it. Communication is absolutely key, whether you're leading or managing, and everything gets lost through lack of communication. There needs to be open communication where they understand what you're saying and you understand what they're saying. And that's in any aspect of life, not just law firm management.
So it seems your role as a mother has helped you.
I think it has hugely, actually. Because a lot of my team are millennials, and they're young, and they're cool. They bring ideas to the table sometimes I wouldn't think of, well, why do we need to do it this way? Why can't we do this? Usually to do things quicker and easier and smarter, rather than the old-fashioned way. And they do make me laugh, because I see a lot of them, were born when I graduated, and I see a different mindset with a different way of doing things. They have more capability at their hands than we ever did at the age of 20 or 22. They can find things faster because of resources and online resources. So I wouldn't expect them to do things the way we did. I'd expect them to have the same ethics and professionalism and commitment and character. But the way of doing law, we need to adapt to that and not just think, well, I did it this way and I was in the office from 8 till 9, so you should be every single day. In fact, and as you know yourself, being a huge advocate of mental health, the younger generation, the millennials, they value work-life balance. They value being valued over and above just what they're being paid every month. They value that they are acknowledged and recognized as team players, and credit is given to them when they do something good. All of those are factors that help retain or nurture the best individuals. And us, who are kind of a few decades on, or generations on, need to adapt and change to that and not think, do it my way because it's the only way. It's absolutely not.
Interesting, very interesting, because there's definitely a science behind it. But and this is a new part of the job that I'm learning, I'm figuring it out. I have my own practice. I'm now have the chance to work with younger generation, and that happened just overnight. And taking this role, I was like always conscious of it. What would I do? How can I give them the comfort? How can I transfer what I have to them? And it is very challenging. And I was music to my ears hearing you talking about it, because it just came very naturally. And I resonated a lot, actually. I didn't think about it, that actually being a mom, my father and myself have definitely helped me. Because I can think of, in hindsight now, thinking of some situations in the past few months since I took up the role. The younger generation come and look to me in a certain way. And I said, why are you looking to me like that? I'm still figuring this out. But naturally, as a father, it does help. And actually, it's there's a lot of, if you're compassionate in real life, I think you can learn that and deal with the younger generation easier, and it comes to you naturally. If you think of how they feel, how can I make them grow, how can I make them better, they get that and they appreciate
I think
that.
if you listen, and you listen to understand and not to respond, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's important. So you're never going to just kind of emulate who you are onto them. You will teach them, and they will learn from you the kind of core basics of practice and law and strategy. But there's no one right way of doing things. And individual personalities kick in. You don't have to be a first-class graduate to be a great lawyer. You have excellent lawyers who haven't come from red brick universities, who don't have the best credentials, but they're rainmakers, they're people's people, they inspire confidence. And you have people who are very articulate or very well read or written, and they would scare clients away when you sit them in front of them. So being a lawyer is just knowing the law, the academia is just a very small percentage of it. It's a whole job. You're a counsellor, you're a salesperson, you're a fixer. There's many things you need to be able to liaise with, from the judge through to maybe the person who's in prison and you're taking instructions. And the main thing is you have to inspire confidence. And that confidence only comes if somebody is comfortable in your presence, because you open up to them, you talk to them at their level, and you listen to what they've got to say. And if you don't have that, your client's not going to open up to you, and your team's not going to open up to you. Simple.
So you mentioned communication and listening. I'm going to throw a curveball to you. So have you dealt with someone before that is a little bit shy, introverted, can't speak up, and you try to make him or her speak and express, but you feel there's a bit of a struggle there? Have you faced that in your career?
I have, and I've dealt with it hands-on.
Tell me about it.
So I won't give names, but they know who they are when they hear this interview. I've had team members who've been really shy and retiring.
Okay.
By the time they finish with me, I'm scared of how they are on the phone call when they're talking to a client.
Tell me what happened.
I've had team members who I've been in the middle of an arbitration. I have a junior who's excellent, who knows their work very well, but they're scared to speak up because we're in a formal setting. We've got the tribunal. So the tribunal are asking me questions, and I'm turning to the junior saying, because it's something to do with the pleadings that they've dealt with, maybe even before I've come onto the case, certainly when I first came to this country. And I just turn to the junior and say, well, you can answer that. No. And I'm like, madam or sir, my junior's just going to take over this aspect of the advocacy. And the junior's just kind of thrown in, and they've dealt with it superbly. And I've put my juniors on the stand. I've encouraged public speaking in our team, whether they've gone back to universities and talked about real life law, the transition from academia to what it takes in practice, because a lot of what you learn in your LLB or your GDL is not actually in practice. And the late hours and the long hours and the non-routine and not knowing what's going to happen next, all of those realisms, they go back and talk to their peers on. So I encourage that public speaking. And what I've seen is, and I also tell them when they've done really well. I think as much as you need to call out, okay, that's wrong, or this is how to improve, when someone's done well, you need to let them know that, because it boosts their self-esteem as well, and they will do it again. They know that I'm doing that right. So I think that there's ways of subtly encouraging people to come to the front. And as I said, in our team, I've seen a shy, retiring individual who was a student of mine at the university, ended up qualifying with us, who went from a very shy, retiring person to someone who will tell you what time it is by the end of the kind of whole process. So I don't think you can you can force it on people because certain personalities are very introvert and shy. But I, in a nice way, will say that you're a lawyer, you need to speak up. You have a voice, you need to voice it.
Oh my God, then I might have scared someone into something. I had this brilliant lady that works with us, and she's a bright lady, and I kept teeing her up to lead a matter, and on various matter I could see. I said, okay, let me do something. So we had this new matter a client came in. I said, okay, we've done 3 matters similar to this matter, so you're going to be lead lawyer. I can see from her face, not comfortable at all. I said, okay, how can I comfort her? We did a role play, but I acted the client. As I was doing the client role, she was resisting. And I kept on the role. And I think at the end of it, I could feel the happiness and the joy came, and this is a lawyer. You want to see this. I think it's important for us as I'm not gonna say older. I may say maybe we're older, working with the younger generation. We need to give this because I think you need to have some passion and you need to have something that you need to have fun doing this job. And part of it is taking the credit and taking the lead and making the decision, and which is difficult, but I think we need to do it. So as you now run your firm as a leader, and the way you've just described yourself, you don't have any fear that someone in your team would take your place? You learn something and then they be better than you, and then
I'd welcome that. You give wings for people to fly. People who've trained under me are now at household names in Dubai, and I'm very proud of them. And I had a culture in the offices where I said, look guys, we're a small startup, I'm not international, I don't pay international wages, but if you get great opportunities, you want to explore them, 1, I can help you, number 2, talk to me. And I'll even give you my honest, unbiased advice of whether it's good for your career. I'm 25 years in, I've got the names behind me, I've been in top 20 commercial chambers, I've worked in top law firms. It doesn't matter where I work today, I've built my reputation, my credibility. When you're at the beginning, a startup might give you a great opportunity to kind of get your feet under the desk, but you want to progress, you may well need the big names. I'm never going to stop anyone from moving on. If I believe in recruiting really good people, because for legacy purposes for law firms, if that was the way SOL was ever going to go, you want to have the best coming in up the ranks, because when the others go, if you've just taken on mediocre, you're not going to retain your position at the top if you've not brought in the best talent. So I think it comes down to comfortness in yourself, or comfortability. I have no issue. If I see a shining star, I will exploit and pursue and push that person further than a potential they probably know they have, and be super proud that they've got there. But do I ever fear, oh, they're going to take my role, or they're better than me, or show me up? I will give credit to a junior in a conference if they're in with me and I've forgotten a point, or they raise a point. I will say, oh, very good, so-and-so's just said this, something that I haven't thought about, but it's a pertinent point. I have no fear, no insecurity in someone undermining me or showing me up or taking my place. None at all.
good for you, and that shows confidence. And I'm going to link that actually with something you mentioned earlier, abundance and confidence. I think if you truly, genuinely see the world in abundant glass, you realize, actually, I need someone to take my place, because I think there's more and more that I can do. And the only way I can achieve that is by growing someone to become me or better than me. And that's the only way you grow, and you do other things, and you have the time, you free up your time by doing that. And when I say growing someone to be like me, it's not the idea. You always have to also be conscious that people are different. It's like picking seeds, and you can't expect each seed to be exactly the same as you, or it doesn't happen this way. So you always have to also, in my opinion, allow differences, which is something I struggled with, and I'm keen to know
you have
what
to
to deal
embrace
with.
the differences, whether it's in your law firm or in the boardroom. The differences of opinion is what keeps you ahead of the competitors, what makes you innovative, and what makes you representative of the kind of clientele or the demographics you're working within. If you've got exactly the same people making all the decisions, you've got exactly the same decisions, like robotic decisions coming out, to change, to keep ahead of change, to become a thought leader, you need to have different views at the table and put those together and then come out with a view, right? And decide, oh, this is right, that's wrong, are we going to do it this way? There is no right or wrong. So those differences in opinion are massively important, and to me they should be embraced, not pushed away. Just because somebody's very junior doesn't mean they don't have a good idea. Some of my juniors have had great ideas about how to run things, do things. But just because someone's older doesn't mean, oh, well, I can't mould them to my line of thinking. They bring a lot of experience to the table. So I think that kind of being diverse and inclusive is hugely important.
If you can zoom in here a little bit and talk about the daily job. So we win cases because we think about them, we strategically think about them, we focus on the how I'm going to say this, how I'm going to draft this, how I'm going to structure the pleading. And you're successful, you've done things in a certain way, and this way has worked and served you well. And now to become a leader, you have to accept the differences you talked about. So you talked about differences in ideas and thoughts, which is interesting. But now in the daily job now, this is how you structure an advice or a memorandum or a submission or witness statement. Someone come to you in your team and does it differently. How difficult or easy was it for you to review it and not to do it your own style? Would you allow the different...
Naturally, you would probably first veer towards doing it your own style. But then, and I have had this situation where maybe the junior said, well, the reason I've put this aspect into here is because I didn't want to repeat it there. And if what they say makes sense, I'll be like, okay, yeah, I get that. So I listen. And if it makes sense to me and I know it makes sense to the client, I'll go with what they say. So I mean, there are certain templates, precedents, which are how style you want to use them. It's just easier for everyone.
Yeah.
But if somebody has decided to do something a little different, and they can back it up and it makes sense, I'd be silly to say, well, no, it has to be my way or no way. So I'm open to kind of hearing differences.
Yeah, and I've seen leaders in law firms do it naturally. Some other struggle with it. This is the way we do it, and we stick to it. I personally wasn't something easy to me because if I know something that would make us succeed, we'll do it. Why change? But then, as I grow as a person, I see now you have to allow these differences. And now, there was a statement of claim that one of the junior team drafted, and I said, yeah, it's not me at all, but I've done any changes to it, and then someone else has changed it completely. I looked at the changes, and it's all stylistics. So some people want to have their own imprint on every statement, on every paragraph. And I think this would slow you down.
I think you can't. You get to a level where if you're dealing with a number of matters and cases and you're delegating, you can't have that level of micromanagement. You have a certain standard, but you've got to allow some free fall and freestyling with the team who you've hired and you pay to do the job. Otherwise, if you want to do every single thing yourself your way, why are you wasting your money with hiring the staff, right?
So you're not a micromanager?
No, not at all. If one of the first things I did, and I do with new starters, is here's your laptop, and the work needs to get done. And I will know if it's done or not. I don't count billable hours. They give me time recordings at the end of a week, but I know the work's being done because I know from clients. And I know from a shared diary system that things are being done. But I'm not interested. I'm not interested in seeing you in the office every day either. I think COVID, again, really helped that we don't work in the offices at all on a Friday. Throughout Ramadan, it's been mostly remote working. I have no interest. I'm not babysitting people. I'm there to develop future great lawyers and leaders. And if somebody needs spoon feeding and babysitting, or I feel they're not working if I'm not watching them, then I've hired the wrong people. There has to be an element of trust. If that trust is broken, there's ways around, you terminate. But I was given that opportunity to grow as a very junior lawyer on the basis of trust. And I give that to my team. And that whole kind of archaic, I need to see you 18 hours in the office and then you'll take partnership or maybe become a senior associate if you're lucky. I don't subscribe to that. In fact, to me, if somebody needs 13 hours to do something, they're either massively overworked or they're incompetent if they can't get the work done in the time frame, and there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
So has choosing talents was something easy to you, or you it takes a bit of time to find the right talent within your firm?
I tend to hire from universities. I teach at the University of Middlesex. I hire from the universities and I hire externally. I always allow people to come in and do an internship, usually before I've hired them, because it gives an idea both for them and us as to whether they kind of like the way SOL is, they can keep up with the pace, if it works for them, because it's not a traditional way of working. and also whether they gel with the other team members. And I kind of give that opportunity for both them and the existing team members and myself to decide. I also rely heavily on existing team members. They work with me directly. I guess the difference between us and big law is you're working directly with the managing partner, the CEO, the founder. You're being trained directly with the CEO, the managing partner, the founder. You get to know them. So very quickly, people who've been with me a while will know the kind of people that will, I'm not going to say fit in, I don't like that word, that will work well within our team structures. People who are willing to get their hands dirty, who'll just get on with it, who are willing to own up if they've made a mistake, who are just very kind of hungry to learn. And we can field out those who are not fairly quickly. And I often leave the first round of applications to the team saying, you go through the CVs, you see the people, and you tell me what you think and send me the second round. And again, it's trusting very junior employees to hire in other employees. And one, they feel respected and valued that they're being given that position. Number two, it helps me out. I'm not having to see every single candidate that kind of applies. And we're working together as a team. So their voice matters as well. My existing team, if they wholly object to someone coming in because they feel, for whatever reason, they could justify it, that person will not come in.
So it seems you spend a bit of time to find out whether the future of your firm would fit in and work well with the existing team. So it seems that you choose your seats carefully. And that's something actually at Khodeir Partners we do as well. We hire from universities as well, and we have this internship, and we get to see the people, and we choose carefully the future of our firm, because that's how we grow, right? But this process takes time. So as a leader, how do you look at what would you say about this? When you want to grow as a firm, at the same time want to maintain to a degree a DNA that would fit in with your DNA, right? How do you do this equation? Because if you want to grow heavily, you can hire and expand, but then you lose on the talent or maybe the kind of DNA you want to maintain in. So is there a balance you think about, or?
No,
again?
I don't think about it, Ammar. It's just organic. If I have a need to grow, I have CVs daily. People are always applying. And we keep CVs on record, and as and when there's a need, we may well reach out, invite for an internship. If there's something huge that's come in, it's going to last a long time, I need extra resource, I'll go. It's not an issue to me, as in, if I need someone quickly, I can get somebody quickly because I have already a stack of CVs of people I've either seen or vetted or I've done internships. So I don't make it into a drama. It's, okay, I need someone, I've got a list of people here, are they going to fit the bill or not? Okay, can you get me some other CVs? And within, days or weeks, it's done. Sometimes I think lawyers spend more time with red tape and going through processes of, can we get this done? Is this okay to be done? Rather than just do it. And I think as a startup, you just do it. I need resource, I'll get it in. I don't panic about it. I don't sit and overanalyze it and think about. And if it doesn't work out, or the person doesn't work out, or they don't like it, there's ways to terminate or they resign. It's not the end of the world. I don't see that as an issue.
Looking at the family side of things, you talked about your kids, and how are they doing, by the way?
They're very well, thank you.
Are in Dubai now or in the UK?
We all got back from the UK just on, so the way my life is. Thursday or Friday I was in the UK, Saturday I was in, Thursday UK, Friday Dubai, Saturday Egypt. So I dropped them in Dubai and I came to Egypt.
So they're adapting to Sarah's Malik lifestyle.
I think they understand.
They love it? Or?
I think they're used to it. That's what they are. I mean, they're funny. The whole firm is named after them.
Yeah.
They have their own little mindset. Whether they will be the future of SOL, I don't know. I think I've put them off law for life. They don't understand why I'm a lawyer or what I actually do. And I think my daughter said to me, well, it's not like you do a real job. It's not like you look after animals. You just get paid to shout at people. I said, well, that's not really what lawyers do. So bad people don't go in. It's not a real job. You're not saving lives. Okay. And we're never going to work the way you work on your... Because they'd be asking me to do something. I'd be like, I'm just going to finish the skeleton. And so when they were little, they'd be like, you're always doing your skelly bones. So they couldn't say the skeleton argument. But yeah, lawyers' kids, they have a certain kind of mindset, and they learn persuasive skills from a very young age.
I'm keeping an eye on Lena.
And hustle. They learn how to hustle. Yeah.
Well, I'm keeping an eye on Lena. Lena, I think she's up to something. I think she has good lawyer traits. I think she. What do you think?
Lena has the mouth to be a lawyer. Lena can, that's my daughter,
I agree.
Can hustle her way out of anything, can justify her way. And even as a young child, and she knew SOL was named after her,
Yeah.
she said, take my L out of your SOL.
Oh.
You cannot use my name,
Oh my
and I will
God.
sue you. And I said, well, it's not Sarah or Marlena, it's strawberries, oranges, and lemons. So that's to like a 6-year-old saying, don't sue me. He's like, you cannot use my name. And I think Omar said to me, well, if we weren't born, you wouldn't be successful because your whole law firm is our names. I'm like, okay.
They're getting the best out of you.
It's because of us you're successful because you used our name. So, yeah.
Sarah, I'd like to tell you, you've got yourself 2 litigators coming up. It seems like it. There's no running away from this, you know.
I'm not sure whether that generation, I mean, they're into their gaming and blogging and YouTubing and TikToking, and they want to excel in those areas, which is the kind of tech generation. And actually it's interesting because I think even in that generation, and they live in virtual worlds and augmented reality with all the kind of Fortnite and all the things they have, their Oculuses. And it's funny because when I travelled to the IBA, my son said, I think it's a huge waste of time for all you lawyers to get on flights and all the emissions when you could all put your Oculuses on and you could all go into the room together. Why do you need to fly? And we laugh, but that's a generational thinking, you know, as in the kind of the way the next generation are seamlessly in the tech way of things. Be interesting to see what kind of lawyers and what kind of law they would practice.
Very interesting topic because I think it's an ongoing discussion we will never finish. One side saying, no, the job is done this way, it's traditional, that's how we do it. The younger generation disagree. And I think it's a matter of having an ongoing discussion on how things will actually play out because we don't know.
Very, very different.
It is going to be different. And you talk about a lot on AI, they do a lot of talks there. So I'm sure that Omar could be right. Why do we have spend time and money and fuel on airplanes while we can do this virtually? Yeah. Let's see. There's no right answer now, I guess. I think
in the future, these interviews might be virtual, and they do happen.
They do happen,
in one place or another.
Yeah, well, I think we need to be curious about it and see how things will actually unfold naturally, and then we adapt. Because we're service providers, we adapt according to the market, right? Very interesting. On the so I'm a single father myself. That had some stories and challenges, made me who I am and doing what I do as a lawyer and being a father who's very involved with the kids. Looking at you, how was your experience there? What was your journey there? Was it helpful? Was it difficult? Was it challenging? Tell us.
I think it's helped me be who I am today. I haven't ever seen my status as a parent as something that's held me back, but that's my mindset. I'm not going to say there's not challenges. Of course there are. There's no such thing to me as a work-life balance, and that term doesn't exist.
Yes.
We have different priorities at different stages of our life that we choose to prioritize. We all want or strive after the same 10 things. It's where we prioritize them in our list as we go forward. And those priorities change throughout the course of your life. Certainly when I was 20 years old, maybe I wanted to be the best lawyer and have a claim and write books and teach and hungry and passionate to be at the top. And right now, I want to continue doing the law I do, but I want to give time to my young family and I want to enjoy them. And I have no shame in saying that. And it does come with its challenges because law is very process-driven with deadlines. And young children don't always understand that, right? Where it's not because I don't want to do this or I don't want to see you or play with you. I have to get this out and I just need that half hour or 20 minutes. And I think that's the most kind of difficult way sometimes to deal with things when the children don't care and they shouldn't care and they don't understand why you would need to be doing that and not seeing to them. But ultimately, I think if you know where to strike your balance without guilt, and when you are with your children, you're giving 110% to your children. When you're with your work, you're giving 110%. That's all you can do. Don't feel a pressure from society. Don't feel that you have to be at the top of every single aspect of your life at every single point, because you cannot. You're human and you have fallacies and you get sick and the child gets sick, and you have to be able to open up about those things and deal with those. And I've been in a situation where, you know, things have been called out or something's been said, and I've made it clear that, and I say it clearly at this interview, family life will always, always supersede anything in my life, right? And I'm not embarrassed to say that, as most lawyers would be, or they're not allowed to say that because I am the lawyer and you're paying me good money to be your lawyer. Of course I'm your lawyer and I'll do everything professionally and look after your interests. But if you think that's at the expense of my own life and family, then I'm not being real with you, because that's not, I'm sure, who you would want me to be either. And I think, again, there's a huge stigma with lawyers because you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to be a person. You're supposed to be someone who goes into a cupboard at night and then comes out in the morning and puts on your show, and it's not real. So there's challenges, and you have to just be able to deal with them. As lawyers, you're solutions providers. And that's how I've kind of seen, and I've been in situations, a child's got super sick, and I've said to a client, I'm sorry, I need to finish right now. I need to get to the hospital. To be fair, the client's been super understanding. And the kind of client who's like, well, no, you can't go to the hospital to see your sick kid because my case is more important. I'm happy to say, here's your fee back and here's your retainer, goodbye. I'm not the lawyer for you.
Is this a hypothetical situation, or have you been in something
I've never
similar
been in a
life?
situation where a client has ever called out anything to do with family. I have been in a situation where, unfortunately, fellow lawyers have, and I've dealt with it. And if you'd like me to elaborate.
You're not going to get away from that. You have to tell us more.
No, so in a nutshell, I was involved in arbitration proceedings. I was counsel against two male counsel, and we had a full male tribunal. And it was a number of years ago. It was just before the Eid break in Dubai. And the tribunal asked us for closing submissions to be written and to be submitted after 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks, the date happened to fall on my son's birthday and on the day I got back from the UK. So I was going to the UK with the children, spending like 11, 12 days, and then flying back to Dubai to do a DFC court hearing the client had insisted on, literally for 24 hours. I'm flying back to the UK to be there for my son's birthday in the morning at 7 a.m. And they wanted the submissions that day. So I said to the tribunal, I have no problem doing the submissions, I am away, but can I just have an extra week? That's all I need, because I've got this ongoing case that I'm coming in for, and it's a deadline. No problem, Miss Malik, we can give you a month. It's the Eid break. My opposition, without taking the instruction, says, well, we disagree and we want a decision. And then says something like, Miss Malik has to choose between her home life or her family life and her professional life.
In the hearing.
And at the hearing with a transcript, and I'm the wrong girl to say that to.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
And I called, I said, what did you say? And I made it clear. I said, for the record, it's my family life every single time. If you think this is more important than my family, you don't know me. Number two, how dare you? And I said, you wouldn't speak to a male advocate like that. And I was faced with, well, you know, we all have children and commitments. And I said, yeah, well, you may well have a wife at home who's looking after them. I do what you do, and I look after the kids, and I run a law firm. So when I'm asking for an extra week, it's not because I'm doing it to kind of gain some advantages, it's for real reasons. Anyway, I was fuming, and I took it upon myself as a senior lawyer to say, well, maybe someone junior wouldn't have stood up to him the way I did. So I contacted the law firm the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Managed to get hold of the managing partner, unfortunately he was away, and said, what's your firm's policy on this being said by your partners when there's supposed to be this equal representation in arbitration? I had apologies from the offices, I had written apologies from the council. The point of it being, the war story if you like, and it's one I've told before, is you have a duty as a more senior lawyer to stand up and help others not go through that situation with somebody else. And I understand a junior lawyer might not be so confident to speak up like that. But I think if we don't, and we don't fight back on those kind of issues, it's a problem. You don't want to be the person who just pays lip service to that. You want to be part of that change and stand up when there are injustices.
Well, I can't talk on behalf of all men, but I can talk as a man. What you've done is the right thing to do, and I'm not going to talk about the intention of the statement that was made with this comment. If I can talk about it in the most positive way, I would say maybe it's a he wanted to just be difficult in an arbitration procedure.
Could be
but
exactly that.
But yet, I really like how you addressed it, because I think you dealt with it in the right way and you put things where it should be, and I think that's why you're well respected in the market, because you deal with things as they should be dealt with. And I think on substance, it's exactly that. And sometimes lawyers, we just you mentioned the stigma that we have sometimes as lawyers, the expectations that we have to behave in a certain way. I've just written an article called "Are You Okay, Big Shot?" and you read it on our way here. It talks about this facade that lawyers build, and in my opinion, the gap you build between this facade and who you are, it just fills with void if you're not conscious of it. And I think what you're very good at, you're very real, and that's exactly what you've mentioned is a manifestation of that reality. I'm not gonna be afraid or feeling a certain way because I'm a single mom or because I put my family first.
Not at all. I think, and that goes to the whole debate that if you take people for their credentials, for their worth, then this whole debate, and it's not going to happen in our lifetimes, will go away, whether it's to do with women, gender, race, or otherwise, if you're just hiring the right people for the right jobs, right? I certainly think that I actually dislike people playing the card, whether it's the mother card or the race card or the disability card, because you deal with real life situations when real life issues arise. And when you play the card, it waters down those. Don't get me wrong. I know there's inequality. I know there's no equity in workplaces, in society, in various aspects. I've been fortunate not to have to deal with that. I can give you an example, as I just did, of where I have had to deal with it in my career. But I think I've been one of the very few fortunate ones who've been able to sail through without any of that holding me back. It might be my mindset. It might be because I will always call it out. I've called out bad behaviour from day one. As a very junior lawyer 25 years ago, I called it out from a judge who was quite rude in a courtroom to me, not based on anything aside from he was just a judge being rude. And I said, you're not allowed to speak to me like that. And I was taken into his chambers and he acknowledged he wasn't allowed to speak to me like that. But I've always been quite outspoken and able to stand up for myself and my rights. And I understand others don't or won't or not in a safe space to do so. But certainly, absolutely not. My position on the postponement was not, I need a postponement because I'm a mummy and I'm on holiday with my children. No, I need a postponement because I'm in court the day before in Dubai and I'm flying back simply so I can have the kid's birthday and he's turning 7, so giving an extra week. Whereas if I wasn't doing that, honestly, I wouldn't ask for the postponement. I would be like, okay, it's reasonable. I can do it within that 2 weeks. I'm off for a week for reading. I can do it in the following week. So I don't think you should abuse a position. And when you justify the position, don't ever do it apart from having, as you say, real substance behind you where you can back up while you're saying what you're saying.
I'm really glad, Sarah, you talked about that. And I think it's an important message for the younger generation to look at someone like you and be inspired with these thoughts. And I think this is the type of discussions I'd love to be having, because it's not really about your gender or your position in life. It's not because you're not who you are because you're of your gender or your situation as a single mom. You are who you are because of the value you bring into the table. And I think this is what the younger generation need to know, that what is your value in the marketplace? What is your value in the market? How people value you? What's your worth?
But that starts from within.
Yeah.
Your external value, to some degree, is what you value yourself as, right? And I know it's difficult to separate the two, but if I know who I am, what I'm bringing to the table, what I'm doing, I'm not going to let you tell me otherwise. And in a nice way, even if I'm junior, and I don't criticise if juniors don't stand up for themselves. I know they're not always comfortable to. But me as a junior, I did, and I would. And I would encourage that to say, call it out. Call out bad behaviour. Because actually, ultimately, you're not only doing yourself service, but you're standing up. You're a lawyer. You stand up for other people's rights, but we're not allowed to stand up for our own. It's not going to work in every workplace because someone making that kind of noise will be told, get out, you're a junior. And that's unfortunate about the law profession generally. But for me, I'd hope as the generations come through, and I think the juniors nowadays are not. We did to some degree, our generation, keep our heads low and got on with it. And then the newer generation will say what they feel. And they are more emboldened to do so. It's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think you answered some of my next question, but I'll put it out there. I'm very keen to hear your thoughts on it. How do you motivate yourself, and how do you inspire yourself, and how do you motivate others? Some of the things you talked about your kids, and it seems to be like an important part here, and they do motivate us, right? That's our children. But I'm keen to hear from you as well. If you want to elaborate on that too, how your family does.
So I'm a person...
Personally, and your team as well.
I am a person who likes challenge. I always have. I like to find newness. I don't follow well-trodden paths. And I believe opportunities are made where nobody's going and you go that way and you make your opportunity and then people follow, right? If you're just following what everyone else is doing, You're not standing out. You're part of the crowd, and it's not really an opportunity.
Mm.
So I get asked to speak a lot worldwide on thought leadership. I was speaking about AI and metaverse 5 years ago or 4 years ago in conferences in Africa. I believe a future, and a huge future in the GCC in the Middle East, is in the sports and entertainment and fashion side of law, and I've embraced that. And
You guys want to write down these things, please?
People will, in
write
years
down
to
these
come,
tips,
do
please.
that. So I try and identify trends because I keep on top of what's going on internationally. And I'm one of those people who I'm constantly learning, and that's not because I'm forced to. I'm a very curious mindset, and I get bored easily, as in I always want to be challenged. I never want to just sit in a comfort zone. You could argue, well, you're on advisory committees, you're on boards, you're running your own law firm, you're doing well. What more do you want? Well, I want to do something else. I get bored being comfortable. So I think that's my motivation. What can I do now? I know I'm just wired differently. So I think everyone says I'm never going to sit still. I probably won't. So as well as SOL, I have a consulting business, I have a property portfolio. I don't sit still. How do I inspire the team? I think my team must think I'm slightly crazy, but I mean, they accept me like that. And I just say, well, you are your own limitation. It's a mindset. I believe I can do, and I won't listen to someone say you can't. When I was setting SOL up, Ammar, I had people who I respect a lot saying, are you sure? You've got university fees of children to pay. You're on a good income. You're earning good money. Why would you go into a jurisdiction? You've been here 3 years. Are you going to set up a law firm? What if it doesn't work? What are you going to do? I'm like, yeah, but what if it does? And if it doesn't, you think I'm not going to get a job? I mean, come on, I can serve coffee if I have to. I'll get a job. I'm employable. As a lawyer or otherwise, I will do a job. I'm not going to worry about what's going to go wrong. I motivate or inspire by looking at the positive of what can go right. So it's your mindset of how you look, the kind of half glass full or glass empty when it's half a glass. It's your mindset of how you look at a situation. And to me, I'm very much about without risk, there's no reward. Staying in your comfort zone will kill your success. You'll never know your potential. And learning is a font of knowledge. I love learning. I love teaching. I love reading. So I think that's what inspires and motivates me. I want to constantly be on top of what's going on and newness and innovation. And that's why the whole tech side excites me. Whereas lawyers I've spoke to my generation and older are like, it's all Ponzi scheme, it's all going to fall down. This whole, whether it's blockchains or metaverse or all of it's all rubbish, because it's the fear of the unknown. And me, I'm like a kid in a candy shop with the unknown, that I don't know what's going to happen. I'm setting up SOL. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to make it happen. So that's the kind of mindset I have, the journey. That's the inspiration and motivation I have.
You're very bold.
Or crazy.
I think maybe a bit of both. And I think boldness is an important characteristic for you to succeed. Is this something came to you naturally in your upbringing, or something you have to develop as you grew up?
I think it's funny you say that. I was on a panel about imposter syndrome many years ago, and I was one end of the panel. So we had a very distinguished panel, professors, doctors, and everybody said that at some point in their lives they'd felt they were an imposter, whether it's in the boardroom, whether it's in a meeting, whether it's in a gathering, like, oh, I'm going to be caught out, I shouldn't be here, I'm really lucky to be here. They feel that innately. And I'm the other end of the spectrum. I've always been like, okay, who shall I speak to here? I've never had a problem in a situation or in a room or otherwise and felt I don't fit. And we kind of deciphered that. Where does that come from? I think it came from my upbringing. I think it came from my father. I was emboldened by my father from such a young age to I thought I could rule the world, because I think that's what I was told. And whatever went on in life, I had a rock and I had a safe place and I had my daddy behind me. And also I think naturally your trait, my daughter is very much like me. So I think you have your own personality trait and then it's nurtured from a young age. When I was 7 years old and I told my parents I'd be a lawyer, they just absolutely, and they've been my biggest fans and cheerleaders from that day onwards to say, you do what you want to do. And I think when you look back, I don't feel, I'm really privileged to be where I'm at. I feel I've worked to be where I'm at, and I'm glad of where I'm at. And I've gone so far in my journey, but there's a further way to go. And I think that mindset or boldness or confidence or whatever you want to call it comes from a belief in yourself that's instilled in you from others from a very young age, or that you're also genes, maybe you're born with, I don't know, but I've been like that from day one, and I see it in my daughter.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point of our discussion, because my next question to you would be, so it comes to you naturally, and I know I've known you for many years, and I can confirm that, having dealt with you and personally and professionally. What would you say to someone who doesn't have this characteristic? Because they might be digging their own grave if they decided to be inspired by you and follow your path, because it's a long, lonely path, right? But if they don't have this characteristic, well, this is one of them, but there's others as well. What would you say to people who want to take a similar path, who doesn't have this particular characteristic, or others naturally?
I think, look, there's different ways of doing things. It's not
Okay.
my way of doing things isn't necessarily the right way of doing things, or not the way for everybody. But if you want to get from A to B or C, you have to have a map. You have to have a roadmap. If you're not comfortable networking, if you're not comfortable with people, don't. But write and be published. Have your name out there. What you can't do is just sit behind closed doors and expect everything's going to fall on your lap, right? So there are people who are not naturally networkers or social people, and I understand that, and they're shy and they can't hold their own. Doesn't mean they can't write. If they're lawyers and they want to be associated with a certain area of law, for example, to be a thought leader in a certain area, or to be resonated with a certain area, start writing about it. But you have to do something, and you have to have a roadmap. I'm running a leadership course at the university, and part of all of this will be discussed as part of the course. But I would say to those people that you don't have to be someone who's massive on social media or otherwise, but you still have to market, you still have to have a name and a presence. And how are you going to do it? Or you have to upskill. Some things might not come to you naturally. You might want to get from A to C. You might not have the skill set. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to go on a course? Are you going to again expect it should just land in my lap? So there's a duty on every individual who wants to get from here to there of how am I going to do it? I want to buy, as an example, hypothetically, a $10 million villa. How am I going to do it? I have to think about how am I going to do it. I'm going to earn the money. I'm going to take a loan. I want to get the villa, but how am I going to do it? So that person who wants to get from A to Z, they might not want to do it the way I've done it, and it's not in their characteristic, but they have to have a plan, and they have to execute that plan, and it has to be a realistic plan. So that's what I would say to anybody. You don't have to do it my way, but you have to have a way that's workable and follow it and do it.
I agree. I would also say to that, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Sometimes we write a prescript to our life, and sometimes we define success in a certain way, but sometimes you need to be curious about yourself and your life. And it's okay to listen to Sarah Malik today and say, hey, she's awesome, she's great. I'm going to take his advice and her advice and just follow her path. Do that. If it doesn't work with you, it's okay. Try something else and be open about it. Don't decide for yourself. You talked about teaching younger generation, and you talked about also your role in the university. That seems to be a big part of what you do.
I've always, even when I was a pupil barrister, I taught students A-level and LLB students. And I've always liked teaching and giving back. So I've been with the university for a number of years now at Middlesex. I've taught both at the LLB and the master's level. I've devised courses. So I co-devised DFC and UAE employment law course. I've just devised modules for LLB on fashion and sports and entertainment law. I've taught always with the DFC Academy and internationally as well. With Kazakhstan, I've sponsored students' foundation courses. I believe in giving back. I'm massive about the next generation has to be really great at what they do in order for the profession to survive as well. But for that, they have to feel involved. I've been at conferences and I do a lot of things worldwide where I'll get pushback saying, oh, there's going to be judges and ministry and, very high-profile people at this conference or event. And I'll say, yeah, but I want 10 or 15 complimentary spaces for the university. And people say, but no, why? And I'll be like, the judges don't need to hear what I'm going to say, neither do the ministers, they already know. But the next generation do, and we need to plant that seed of thought. And for them to hear from panellists, and for them to hear from keynotes so they understand and they feel involved, because they'll take that forward. So I'm massively about empowering the next generation, because I think we all have a duty to do so. if you're vested in your profession, you want the best to come through, you'll put that time and effort in. So you have to give back. And I've always enjoyed that side anyway, so I'm doing more and more teaching. I may well be in Milan doing stuff there at the Fashion Institute as well. And I thought nobody teaches for money or otherwise. You teach because you have a passion. I always have for many, many years, even before I was a qualified barrister.
Well, that's amazing. And it's actually, for me, that's what kind of keeps me going at this stage of my career. There's a point of time when I kind of questioned, after I joined Khodeir Partners, and just said, well, why am I taking this role? I'm doing pretty good. And you realize in your journey, if you're curious about yourself and your journey and how's it going to roll out, and you don't have a certain script to your life and your future and your career, you're just being open about it. The money, yeah, it can motivate you for a bit. That stops. The big cases, the cutting edge cases, the transaction work, the fancy work that comes in, the attention you get from doing these cases, right? That can keep you going. But then what really excited me to join KP and do the expansion in the UAE was working with the younger generation. I couldn't find any other reasons. It's exactly what you mentioned, is that giving away, giving back. And our time here is limited, right? And no one's going to remember the big case that you worked on. No one's going to remember how many cars you drive, how many villas you own. But people will remember Sarah Malik, who taught me how to draft a witness statement. Ammar taught me how to think about this matter, how to think as a lawyer, how to look at documents, how to write an email, how to advise, how to write a pleading. And that stays. And that really stays. And I couldn't find any other reasons apart from this, but doing this
I think
role.
to stay in the law as well, and I say it to the juniors, I certainly was, and I do to some degree, you have to have fire in your belly. It has to put your soul on fire to undertake this profession. It's not a profession you do for the money. It's not a profession you do for prestige. It's not a profession you undertake for fame. It's because you're vested and you're passionate about what you do. Otherwise, it's the most boring, laborious, time-consuming academic career you can ever have, forever learning and forever solving problems and, forever hitting deadlines. So I say to the juniors, if that you don't have that, don't do it. It's not right for you, because you do not want 20, 30, 40 years of something that kills your soul. So unless it does give you that kind of passion, this is not the profession for you.
I love it. I think it's on us, by the way, to give people passion by empowering them and doing all of this. So it's on us to create that fun in it, right?
I hope so.
Before I let you go, if you pose, you're a very busy lady. You do a lot of things. Very successful. If you pause a little bit and leave this attention you have and this business and people in line wanting to talk to you and meet you, and you look at yourself back then when you were a younger lawyer, what would you say to yourself, and would you do anything different?
As a younger lawyer, it's a very good question. I'd probably say to myself not to get so bogged down in I'm not going to say the detail, but the day-to-day mundane task of law, not to let it overtake everything. And so many things I cancelled throughout my life because I had to deal with a case. And friends got used to Sarah dropping out last minute, and of course she's not going to come, she's a lawyer, it became like that. And I think
it's part of the job, Sarah. It's part of it. It's inevitable. Sorry.
I'll do a little less of that. But honestly, I think everything you've gone through in life is a total sum of who you are today. So maybe if I hadn't done all of that, I wouldn't be who I am today. So to my younger self, I'd just be like, just sit back, enjoy it, take it for what it is. Don't let it define you. You are not the lawyer. You're still a person. You're still Sarah Malik. Have fun in life. And it's okay for things not to always be okay, and for plans to get disrupted. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And that's the truth.
Sarah Malik, it has been a pleasure having you today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I had a great time.
Thank you to the law. We're very, very thankful for hosting us. Thank you, Ammar, for the interview. And thank you, Egypt. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Our pleasure. And how do you think of the studio and this lovely present? Actually, can we have this? I wanna have, like, we walked in today and we saw this amazing surprise. How do you think of it?
It's so sweet and it's so nice and so professional.
Yeah, I just walked in like...
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just let me... look at this. I'll have Sarah. She can have mine. I'll have the pretty. I'll have the pretty face. Come on.
No, I need to put it in my office. What's
I'll
wrong
hold.
with
I'm
you?
not.
Are
I'm
you gonna
not.
hold it?
I'm not going to be holding my.
No, we can hold
Here
it
you
for a
go.
picture.
So we walked in. We walked in today. Thanks
Can
to
you
the
take
law.
a picture of this?
Thanks to
as well?
Ziad, Ned, and all the rest of the team. We walked in and we saw this. I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? So, guys, thank you so much for having us. It's been really a pleasure. Thank you. Sarah, thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time.
Ammar.
I had a
Thank
great
you.
time chatting with you.
As always. Thank you very much.
Take care.